Oof, this one's going to be tough. Chapter 12, A Boy and His Dog. In Chapter 4, Sex and Relationships, I wrote about my wife. In that chapter, I laid out the events of the relationship and the divorce. I also mentioned my dog, Ollie. This chapter is about my dog. In my early 20s, Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps laid out the foundations of how not to live like an animal. Ollie was instrumental in teaching me how to be human. In late 2016, my unit in the California State Guard was activated to support a search and rescue mission in Northern California. A few days into the mission, I received a text message from my wife that she had a surprise for me. I'm not a fan of surprises. Not the I hate surprise party level unplanned events that are preventable or within human control. It had been a while, so I don't remember exactly how the conversation went. I guessed that she had adopted a dog, and when I returned home the following weekend, we went to pick up our new family member around December of 2016. Prior to adopting Ollie, my wife and I had discussed the possibility of adopting a puppy. I wasn't completely opposed to the idea. However, further discussion was required. Ideas like type of diet, training, outdoor versus indoor dog, and other specifics to be discussed. So when our new family member arrived, the wife and I would be on the same page. My understanding was that we would have a conversation prior to adopting a puppy. Needless to say, we never had the discussion. We drove to the breeder in Alberta, California to pick up our new puppy. Just like most Labradors, Ollie was cute as pie. At first glance, he seemed completely healthy and normal around his siblings. Arriving home, we set him up in the laundry room of our 2,600 square foot suburban home. I sat in the corner of the laundry room playing with my new pup. The wife had to run out to the local pet store to gather additional supplies, and because Ollie wasn't fully vaccinated, I stayed home with him. The moment the wife walked out the door, I began to sob uncontrollably. Looking back and trying to understand that moment, I guess it was partly joy and partly because the responsibility involved in taking care of another soul, a living being. The idea scared me. I didn't believe that either of us were prepared. The wife flew for a major airline. She had an interesting schedule, which very early on I stopped trying to understand. I worked full-time in a cubicle, and the schedule was predictable and mundane. When I would go to work during the week and the wife was home, she would watch Ollie. The challenge was when she was out of town for a couple weeks at a time and I was at work between 7 and 5. Leaving Ollie in his crate all day unattended did not sit well with me. However, my gracious father-in-law would come to the house and sit and play with Ollie for an hour or two around lunchtime. I was truly grateful, and his graciousness settled some of my insecurities. I believe that the wife experienced a few emotional upsets, realizing that we may have bitten off more than either of us could chew. I'd like to take a second to set the stage. My wife prided herself on having a clean home. Our house was a new build in the southeast part of Sacramento area. Like all new builds, the backyard was not complete and minimal landscaping was in the front yard. Secondly, to this Southern California born knucklehead, Northern California gets a lot of rain. So you, the reader, can imagine dirt in the backyard and rain. The natural outcome was mud and lots of it. Ollie, being a young pup, had to go outside to take care of business. He also liked to play, and he loved mud. Let's just say clean house fanaticism and a muddy puppy do not go hand in hand. The wife, on the verge of tears and overwhelmed, called me at work to explain her situation. Naturally, my smartass came out and said, "We own a dog. What did you expect? You can't have a clean home 24/7 with a dog. That's not possible." Very early on, Ollie and I were thick as thieves. I enjoyed playing and wrestling with the young pup. One weekend morning, while lounging on the couch, Ollie propped up on my chest. I noticed he had a 1,000-mile stare. For those that don't know what a 1,000 mile stare is, it's when someone stares off, looking past everything, but there is no light in the eyes or focus. Many people who suffer from post traumatic stress disorder display this behavior. In Ollie's case, it was accompanied by a subtle head shake. I found it an odd behavior for a 10-week-old puppy. However, when I distracted Ollie, he quickly snapped out of his episode and play resumed. Ollie was a special dog. Over the next 5 years of his life, my then wife and I spent a lot of time, money, and energy on Ollie. There were so many veterinarian visits, and the high level of responsibility required to raise Ollie was overwhelming at times. Both she and I made plenty of mistakes in this training. I don't need to get into the shit she pulled. I'm going to focus on myself. As I mentioned earlier, I was working a 10-hour day commuting to and from downtown. Typically, I would arrive home around 5:45 after my commute. Ollie would be sitting on the couch, ready to greet me as I walked in the door. Immediately after my arrival home, I'd lift Ollie off the couch and take him outside to go number 2. My wife and I loved the idea of snuggling on the couch with our pup. We were so excited to teach him to jump up onto the couch and share puppy snuggles. Yes, I said puppy snuggles. This is why, when arriving home, Ollie would be patiently waiting on the couch. One evening, I had an appointment at my chiropractor, so after work, I went to my appointment and had my spine adjusted. When I arrived home, Ollie was on the couch to greet me. However, there was something different in his behavior. Ollie was anxious and nervous. When I approached and made my way toward Ollie, I noticed a pungent smell that only increased in foulness as I got closer. Upon closer inspection, I saw that there was shit all over the couch and Ollie. He'd found himself in a pickle waiting at home for Daddy to take him out, only for Dad to come home late. Poor pup defecated on the couch and as a result spread his feces all over himself and the couch. I picked up Ollie off the couch and took him outside, then panic set in. What if my wife came home and I was unable to get the house clean? How would I even begin to clean up this mess? I was covered in shit. After recovering from momentary paralysis, I saw Ollie make his way back into the house via the doggy door and began spreading his shitty footprints all over the common area of the house. Finally, I snapped out of my daze and went into the cleaning supply closet and grabbed a shitty dollar store mop. At this point, Ollie's anxiety had subsided, but my anxiety began to increase as far as Ollie was concerned. Daddy was home and it was playtime. Immediately after I reached for the mop, Ollie attacked it ferociously as a puppy could. I wrestled with Ollie and the mop disintegrated in front of my eyes. No! I blew a gasket. I grabbed Ollie by the scruff and tossed his puppy ass into the crate. At the same time, he stubbed his paw underneath the crate and hurt himself. I hurt my pup, only to add to my already shitty moment. No pun intended. I was fit to be tied. I grabbed what was left of the mop and went out into the garage and in a fit of rage slammed the mop handle into the floor yelling, "Fuck! Fuck, fuck, fuck! Fuck, fuck! And fuck!" With every swing of the mop. Surely my neighbors must have thought I had gone insane. There's no way in hell they didn't hear that commotion. Once I regained my composure, naturally I called the wife to explain the situation. I was freaking out. I didn't know how to begin cleaning this mess. A very long, detailed story short, I went to the local big hardware store, purchased all the industrial cleaning supplies required to clean the mess. Stripped the covers off the couch, washed them, scrubbed what couldn't be removed, and mopped the floor. When I completed the cleaning, I pulled Ollie out of his crate, carried him to the bathroom, and we both showered. It was a long night, a work night. I crated Ollie up and passed out. The morning would come fast. Ollie and I avoided each other. He avoided me because he could sense my anger. I avoided him because I was pissed off, not at Ollie, at myself. You see, the following day after work, I called my friend Jim. He was a longtime dog owner and had a lot of experience with dogs. I explained to him in detail the events that had transpired. Now, a little history. Many years ago, Jim and I bartended at the same club I mentioned earlier. Jim, a longtime friend, knew I was an asshole at times, particularly to poor tippers. He still remained my friend after all these years, regardless of how big of an asshole I could be. After my rant, he asked the question, to what purpose did getting pissed off serve? He went on to say, why are you getting pissed about poop? It's just poop. At that moment, there couldn't have been a more profound statement. It's just poop. It's just poop. It should be a metaphor for life because we as humans experience poop every day. That's the human condition. We experience poop. We have to navigate the poop of other humans in our life. Your boss, your husband, your wife, the police, the judge, the asshole who cut you off. Poop everywhere. Of course, I thank Jim for his wisdom. However, I still mulled over the situation that had transpired the night before for a few more days. A few days later, the thought came to me as if God himself had delivered it. We, the wife and I, were so thrilled that we had taught Ollie to jump on the couch, but we never taught him to jump off the couch. I unintentionally taught Ollie to wait for me on the couch until I arrived home from work. I wasn't forward thinking and hadn't taken steps to mitigate this fiasco. Much of this heartache and stress could have been eliminated if I had taken responsibility and thought his training through. In a strange way, it is a total representation of Newton's rule. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Ollie is exactly what he is, a puppy, a dog, a canine. He doesn't have a voice that I can understand. I took on the responsibility of adopting him, and as a result, Ollie depended on me for his food, safety, and love. That evening shined a huge light on who I was as a human being. It's my failings that set him up for failure, and as a result, I took it out on him and the wife. I resented having this responsibility. Only after deep reflection did I realize I resented myself because I was ill-equipped for the responsibility. The moral of the story is that we as humans fail on so many levels. Most of our failures are so subtle we don't recognize them. We don't realize when we practice them. We bring children into our lives under the misguided thinking that the children will improve our situation or improve who we are as members of society. We make the decision to marry thinking that this is good for us and will strengthen the relationship. In turn, a few short years later, we divorce. In my opinion, having children is no longer a necessity in terms of modern society. Having children in today's world is a luxury that we as humans are not prepared for. It's hard to ignore. The little animals we are raising are entitled little pricks. We allow our public school systems and our neighborhood rats to raise them. While you are at work achieving new levels of debt in order to keep up with the Joneses, your kids are being raised by strangers, other children, and internet porn. Then, we as parents have the nerve to get angry at the system and deflect the responsibility to others. Look in the fucking mirror. Your kids are animals because you've disengaged and have no true understanding of what responsibility is. We have multiple generations of children who are growing up with no self-respect and as a consequence, no respect for others. Young ladies have double-digit body count by their sophomore year in college. Young men are afraid to go outside and touch grass. Most of them do not have the skills to read this simple-minded book written at an 8th grade level. These are the decision makers of our future, of your future. How is it possible that we are raising a generation of children who are incapable of leading productive lives and are lacking in discipline, integrity, temperance, and diligence? We are looking forward to very scary times. We are raising an impulsive generation that is oblivious to the consequence of their need for instant gratification. Children, much like Ollie, require copious amounts of time to train and be disciplined, to grow up and to be well-adjusted, responsible animals. Most households, if lucky enough to have two parents, may be able to take the kids to extracurricular activities. However, today's children consider a single-parent home as normal. Traditional roles have no value, and as a consequent resort to social media and the internet to whore themselves out for likes and attention. This results in them shitting all over their lives before they can have a chance to get started. Maybe we need to reconsider the shit we're putting our children through and investigate the need to bring morality back into our lives. After my divorce, I gained custody of Ollie. 2 very short years later, Ollie's health declined, and he was suffering seizures every few hours, regardless of his medications. Early in the morning of September 10th, 2021, neither of us got much sleep. Yet again, I contacted his veterinarian, a follow-up to an early visit that week. I took Ollie to the emergency clinic that morning. I said goodbye to Ollie for the last time. He didn't come home with me that day. Ollie was 2 months short of his 5th birthday. He was my buddy, my friend, my sweet, sweet boy, and my love. He taught me to be a better, kinder, more patient, loving, and responsible human. I miss you, buddy.